Well, good evening, everybody. Eric Cozy is, I'm sure, safely tucked up in bed. I did forget to ask him one question. Well, it amounts to about 25 questions, but he was needing, obviously, his beauty sleep. I mean, he was, not that he needs his beauty sleep, but, you know, he was in need of getting some rest and relaxation. So we'll let him slumber on. I was going to ask him for his 25 greatest Americans of all time. So in his absence, I'll give you mine. 25 greatest Americans of all time. Starting off with number 25, all the cast from a series called Lost in Space. This was my first encounter with American TV. I absolutely loved Lost in Space, the original series with I seem to remember that the fellow that played the youngster in it was called Billy Mummy, but you might be able to correct me on that. Anyway, that was my first encounter of American TV. In 24th place must be Joey from Friends. I don't particularly like Friends, but when it comes to Joey speaking French, that did raise a laughter from me. Number 23 is Henry Ford. I've had several Ford cars in the past, including some very, very fast ones, as I've mentioned before. Talking about very fast Americans, in 22nd place, Sam Ermolenko, Southern Sam as he's called, Speedway rider. In number 21 place is Bruce Penhall. Not only was he a world champion at Speedway, but he also appeared in the TV series called Chips. Number 20, a musician, two musicians, well actually, yeah, one musician, one lyricist, George and Ira Gershwin. Now, in 19th place, I asked my daughters for their opinion on a great American. They came up with RuPaul. I have no idea who RuPaul is, but some of you might know who he or she is. I have no idea. That's number 19. In 18th place, I remember another American sitcom with Henry Winkler called The Fonz. I just can't remember the name of the show he was in. I know it was based in Kenosha in Wisconsin. He was friends with Richie and Potsy. He went to Arnold's Drive-In. I just can't remember the show. I remember the theme tune went something like Sunday, Monday, something, something. Tuesday, Wednesday, something, something. Thursday, Friday, something, something. But I just can't remember. If anybody knows the name of the show, could you please tell me? Talking about musicians, in 17th place is Marshall Mathers. In 16th place, I've put the Osmonds, because I particularly like one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch, but in the case of Manitowoc, one bad apple certainly does spoil the whole bunch. In 15th place, one of the greatest Americans, Lance Armstrong, that walked. No, he didn't walk on the moon. Sorry, that was Neil Armstrong. Sorry about that. In 14th place, Geronimo. I'm particularly reminded of him by the song by Prefab Sprout, King of Rock and Roll, and they mention Albuquerque. Going back to my childhood now, Penelope Pitstop from the Wacky Races. I particularly like Penelope Pitstop. She reminds me very much of Nancy Grace. In 12th place, I've put Top Cat, one of the greatest cartoon characters of all time. I absolutely love Top Cat and Officer Dibble, of course. In 11th place, I must admit, recently, if you like, within the last sort of 20 years or so, the films of Brad Pitt, I think Brad Pitt's an absolutely amazing character. He can play so many parts and do it convincingly. And in 10th place, another film hero of mine, Clint Eastwood. The ending of The Good, the Bad and the Piano Teacher is without doubt one of the greatest films of all time. 9th place, probably not many of you have heard of the jazz musician called Chick Corea, but again, for me, he's right up there, one of the greatest musicians of all time. In 8th place, you know I'm a Green Bay fan. It has to be Brett Favre, one of the greatest quarterbacks that has ever played the game. In 7th place, I doubt whether many of you have heard of Charles Magnante, but he was one of the greatest probably the greatest accordionist of all time. And of course, because I play the accordion, I know all about Charles Magnante. If you want to check out stuff about him, I'm sure you'll find it interesting. Then we get to probably a couple of controversial greatest Americans of all time. I've paired them together. Mark Riegert and Tom Fassbender. Their interrogation of Brendan Dassey has already gone down in history as the worst way ever to interrogate a juvenile. Their efforts to procure a false confession has already been used by other law enforcement agencies throughout the country to show this is not what you do. Excuse me, I'm going to get a quick drink because I'm really struggling. Which moves us on to 5th place. Again, slightly controversial. I would put Andrew Colburn and James Lenk. They will always be associated with magic. Why they are not already members of the Magic Circle, I don't know. In 4th place, it was interesting because it was only Eric Cozy that alerted me to this particular character, Tanya Harding. Yeah, she admitted that she knew about the, or she realised after the event about the attack on, I think it was Nancy Kerrigan. I don't buy that. I do not buy that at all. I think she knew exactly what was going down, but others might know differently. In 3rd place, due to my distant relative being a Time Lord, i.e. Doctor Who, I predict many great things for Charlie Berens. I think he's going to become an absolute superstar over there in America, and hopefully this side of the Atlantic as well. So my top 2 would have to be, in 2nd place, the second greatest American is going to be Brendan Dassey, because he is an absolutely peaceful and wonderful person. And the only reason why Steve Avery goes into 1st place is because he suffered so long and so hard. But he is, for me, the greatest American. He was born in America, made in Manitowoc, and he is the patron saint of wrongful convictions. Thank you for listening. Bye for now.